Meet the new king of the jungle, the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I think the Pro factor has really been upped by quite a big margin this year, even though externally on the back it still shares the same look as the 12 and 13 Pros, but there's enough new features that you'll see on a constant basis which will keep reminding you that you are on a 14 Pro or Pro Max. Of course, at the center of that is everyone's new best friend, the dynamic island. I kinda wished that they just named it the island though. It sounds a bit more approachable that way, but then again, there's nobody really stopping us from shortening it to just island, if we want to call it that. And even though I have just only started using this phone since I unboxed it a few hours ago, another feature that constantly stood out is the always-on display. It's probably the most intelligent always-on display I've ever seen or used in a smartphone. I'm just kind of used to them being, always on. The iPhone's always on display is kinda always on, but not really always on when it doesn't need to be always on. Like when it's face down on a table, it turns itself off, or when it's sitting in my pocket, I realize it's actually off until I pull it out of my pocket. And depending on the ambient light levels, it can actually hit up to 500 nits in terms of peak brightness. That's about as bright as many other normally on displays. For outdoor visibility, the peak brightness of this Super Retina XDR panel can hit up to 2000 nits. That's insanely bright for an OLED panel in a phone. Like, that's really bright even by professional daylight viewable field monitor standards. The Atomos Ninja 5 maxes out at 1000 nits. This is twice as bright, and higher resolution as well, actually. And when I launched the camera app for the very first time on this 14 Pro Max, there was a lovely surprise in there waiting for me. On the right side of my UI are 4 little circles of focal lengths for me to choose from. I am so glad that the 2x camera is back. This time around, it's back in the form of a cropped area of the main camera. The main camera is a high resolution 48 megapixel sensor now, but if you're not shooting in ProRAW, it still bins it down to 12 megapixels. So as long as you're targeting 12 megapixels, because the 2x camera is a 12 megapixel crop from that higher resolution sensor, there's no actual loss in resolution if your target is 12 megapixels. But I think the main key upgrade to the camera system on this phone would be driven by that new 48 megapixel main camera. I will definitely need to spend quite a bit more time with it to really learn more about what is probably the biggest step up in an iPhone camera. The other main key driver to a new user experience here is that dynamic island. Again, I've only spent a few hours with this, so I haven't really gotten around to use a lot of different use cases with it yet, but so far it's extremely well integrated, and you already see it in action when you go about your usual business, like unlocking your phone with Face ID, and when you charge your phone, either plugging it in or placing it on a wireless charger. It's something so new and so fresh, yet it just works. Also, the Pro iPhones this year come in a white box, which look very similar to the standard iPhone 14s. Traditionally, the Pro iPhones would always come in a gray or darker colored box. I'm personally on team dark colored box because it just looks a bit more identifiable. Now, I'm sure there is plenty more to uncover about this iPhone, but so far, these have been my first impressions of the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I'll be back with more to share on this iPhone, but until then, I'll see you in one of my other videos.